The second season of the Umbrella Academy follows the Hargreaves siblings as they navigate an unfamiliar decade fraught with challenges. It's a lot to keep track of. And if you reach the end of Season 2 a little fuzzy on some of the details, we're here to help. Lila is introduced as a fellow patient at the mental hospital where Diego is sent after he attempts to kill Lee Harvey Oswald and prevent the assassination of John F. Kennedy. After helping Diego escape and earning his trust, we learn that she is actually a time traveler herself. We also learn that her mother is the handler who adopted her after the commission killed her parents in 1993. Her backstory gets even more complicated than that, though. It turns out that the handler orders the murders of Lila's parents because she knew about Lila's special abilities. Lila was born on October 1st, 1989, just like all of the Hargreaves siblings, as the result of one of the 43 mysterious pregnancies and births that we learned about at the beginning of the series. Hargreaves adopted 7 of the babies, but the other 36 remained a mystery until Lila. Like the Hargreaves siblings, Lila has her own unique powers. She can mimic anyone else's power, turning their own abilities back on them like a weaponized mirror, which explains why the handler wanted to claim her as her own. When the Hargreaves clan arrive in the 1960s, they all assume the world is safe until 2019, when Vanya would blow up the moon and annihilate all life on Earth. However, when Five arrives in Dallas in 1963, he witnesses the last moments of his siblings' final stand against a Soviet invasion before an arsenal of nuclear missiles wipes them all out. Obviously, this was a different version of 1963 than the one in our history books, which leads Five to conclude that his siblings had somehow caused the apocalypse. Over the 10 days leading up to November 25, 1963, Five and the other Hargreaves siblings desperately attempt to piece together the events leading to doomsday. Eventually, it's Diego who uncovers the event that leads to nuclear war, an explosion at the FBI building in Dallas, which is blamed on the USSR. The US then attacks Soviet-backed Cuba, leading the USSR to bomb Anchorage, Alaska, which leads to all-out war. However, it wasn't the Soviets who caused the explosion, but Vanya. When Vanya uses her powers to attempt to break through a police blockade, she is taken into FBI custody. After the agents determine she must be a Russian operative, she's interrogated using electric shocks. The shocks cause her powers to overload, and she sends out a massive energy wave, killing the FBI agents and ultimately causing the explosion. The first thing Vanya does upon arriving in 1963 is get hit by a car, driven by Sissy, who subsequently brings Vanya home to her farm to recuperate. Vanya has amnesia, but gradually begins to rediscover her powers throughout the season. In Episode 4, Vanya is pushed to use her powers in a big way, when Sissy's son Harlan runs into a lake and sinks out of sight. Using her powers to lift the water out of the lake, Vanya is able to carry Harlan to safety. She then uses CPR to attempt to revive him, while also unintentionally passing some of her powers to Harlan. At first, Vanya doesn't notice anything different about Harlan, but gradually, she begins to suspect that he's now capable of superhuman feats. Later, we see the extent of Harlan's borrowed power when he becomes upset after accidentally killing his father, and unleashes an energy vortex that freezes the whole farm. Eventually, Vanya is able to get close enough to Harlan to transfer his power back to herself. Or so she thinks. The last we see of Harlan, he's making a small toy bird levitate in his hand, implying that he still retains some of Vanya's power. Recognizing that the Hargreaves siblings desperately want to return to their own time, the handler strikes a deal with Five. She says she'll give him a commission briefcase that will transport him and his siblings back to an apocalypse-free 2019, if Five will agree to assassinate the commission's board of directors. Five agrees. Although the handler exploits a loophole in their deal that makes it impossible for the Hargreaves clan to travel back to 2019 as planned. Once the board of directors is gone, the handler bypasses the chain of command and assumes control of the commission, then promptly reassigns all of its field agents to wage war on Five and his siblings. Vanya kills all of the agents, and the handler herself is killed by disgruntled field agent Axel, who then leaves the commission and strikes out on his own. After that, absent the commission's prior leadership, the remaining members of the organization vote to put mild-mannered analyst Herb in charge. We don't know what the future of the commission holds, but without its previous leadership or any of its field agents, it's bound to look very different. In their attempts to figure out what their adopted father Reginald Hargreaves has to do with the assassination of John F. Kennedy, Five and Diego head to their future father's umbrella factory to see what they can learn. While there, Five comes across an invitation to a gala hosted by Hoyt Hillenkoetter, whom helpful 60s conspiracy theorist Elliot tells them is a member of the Majestic 12. He goes on to explain.
It's a secret committee. Scientists, military, deep state. No one knows what they really do.
Wait, so they're government?
Shadow government.
Although only 11 have been identified, Five and Diego believe that Reginald Hargreaves must be the 12th member. Sure enough, after Kennedy is assassinated, Hargreaves meets with the Majestic 12, who admit that they orchestrated the assassination to stop Kennedy from prying into their organization. However, Hargreaves is upset.
Our little Kennedy problem is solved. He was not to be touched. That was the deal.
When the 12 then threaten to expose Hargreaves' alien identity if he doesn't continue giving them his advanced technology, he removes his human disguise and presumably kills them all. When the Hargreaves siblings finally arrive back in 2019, they're initially relieved to find that it's April 2nd, the day after the world ended in their original timeline. But they quickly realize that Doomsday isn't the only thing that's changed. The Umbrella Academy is now the Sparrow Academy. Their father and Ben are still alive, and there are a new group of siblings living in the mansion who don't seem to recognize the original six. What the siblings failed to take into consideration was that their presence in the 1960s would irrevocably alter the timeline. Their actions impacted a number of people outside themselves, such as the members of Klaus's cult, the other activists who worked with Allison, and the FBI agents that Vanya killed. Additionally, they made contact with their father and told him some of what the future held, which could in turn have affected his future actions. So while Doomsday never occurred, all sorts of other parts of the timeline were also changed, thanks to the Hargreaves' interference in the past, making the future they returned to unrecognizable from the one they left. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite Netflix shows are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.